Atlanta Falcons head coach Dan Quinn back here on the show. How are you, Coach Quinn?
Rich, what's up, man? I'm doing good. We're had one big 4-day block with the guys, and then we're back at it again today. Rain today, so good day for us outside, going to battle for it. We play inside, so we need some of this work when it comes. So, yeah, I'm pumped to be on with you guys.
I'm pumped to have you here. It's just, I guess, in radio, sometimes you give the time. So it's 20 minutes after now, right? Do you still have that clock, Coach?
You got that right. And so that's all I want to do is just see if we can throw a good day today, good practice today, battle for it. We'll worry about stuff down the line later on. But it's been a good focus for the guys so far, Rich. The number of these guys have played together for a few years and really, will push one another, understand the expectations for each other. So we're off to a good start. We've got a lot of work to do, but it is good to be back in. And out in the field is where we make us, so we're gonna put it in.
I love it. So again, you still have that clock where every number says now that there's
that is
no
correct.
such. Okay, that's fantastic.
Now o'clock.
Now it's now o'clock.
What time is it? It's right now, man.
I love that. And again, that idea is just don't look over the steering wheel. Just focus on the rep, the down, the distance, the moment. Right.
Yep.
That's the
all
idea.
we can control, and the other stuff, whether it's play time or where I'm at on the depth chart or any of that, man, that's out of your control. Like all you can do is like your effort, your mindset to push one another. And so that part's good, and there's a good group of leaders here. Rich, so many of these guys that'll, take these young guys and help guide them and push them. And that's been a good start to camp.
So the fact that Julio Jones is now a happy camper and the quarterback signed, your signed, I mean, so many, and your tackle signed. I mean, does that make a job easier for you, Coach?
It does because, these guys who've really put it in, when you're able to reward them for a job well done, it's a good feeling. Now, you wish you could do it for everybody. We know that's not the case. However, those are the tough decisions between Thomas and myself and Arthur that we got to make. But let's hope that we're having, for years to come, having to make those tough decisions. I had once said to Rich or one of the guys, hey, if we have $80 million, we've made some big mistakes, man, in cap room. Let's make sure we're developing the guys that are here. And when you get a chance to re-sign them, I think it's a really good sign for what they represent for the team.
And year two now of this offense, post Shanahan,
right.
What improvements can you expect to be made on that front, Coach?
During the offseason, Rich, we had a big, kind of like an audit, you do after anything to say, all right, what went well, what, didn't. And so you say, okay, what do we need to stop doing, what do we need to start doing, and what do we need to do different? And that was kind of the basis for where we started. And I would say 80% of what we do going into year 4 is a lot of the same, the scheme and the technique. We like wide zone run game and the play action and the keepers that go with that. So we wanted to make sure that always stays connected to the philosophy. That's also who our guys scout to, to make sure they fit into the system. So the tweaks, we spent a lot of time in the red zone to make sure that part of our game could come back to where we wanted it to. That's where so much of the scoring takes place. And then the other emphasis, which I like from a team standpoint, is just our emphasis back on the football. We actually were in the minus last year in a turnover margin, and it's hard to play good football and be in the minus. That's been at the front of our thinking as well.
Well, if you bear with me, Coach Quinn, on behalf of all those who have Julio Jones in their fantasy leagues, how about just throw it to 11 inside the 20-yard line? Just throw it to 11 and just see what happens,
all of
Dan.
Those who are part of yours and others,
yes.
That's just good coaching, and we'll definitely take that into account.
Okay.
And they'll also be good to know that he has put work in, and the aggressiveness, the shape, and how he's in. Tell you and other members of that group that he looks great.
Dan Quinn, Falcons head coach, thank you for that here on the Rich Eisen Show. Now, look, we've already established that it's now o'clock for you. It's now. And I know that what happens in other camps have nothing to do with you. But even Bill Belichick being asked about what happened with Malcolm Butler last year and in Seattle, your old spot, with Richard Sherman having left, fully admitting with Cliff Averill as well as what happened in the Super Bowl then was something that they dealt with for years and years and years, the Butler interception. How about your Super Bowl experience, Coach, and what you think about and what you think some of your players are thinking about that even 2 years later?
Sure. I definitely recognize the question, Rich. And for those who've played for championships, they know how much, fun that is to get the opportunity to do that. So I've been on sides when it's gone like you want it and on the other side where it hasn't. And I hope that you get yourself into some of those same scenarios again where you have a chance to prove what you've learned. And anytime you go through some adversity, it does make you harder in terms of, what lessons did I learn? And you're hopeful that as you grow from it and you gain more experience, okay, that right there, we're going to try like hell not to have that instance, whatever the lesson might have been, whether it's the game or not. There's lessons to be learned, and how you respond to those, I think, is a big thing. So I do love that our team is a resilient group, and I would say one of the factors that when you go through a devastating loss, there's some toughness and some hardness gained, and this is a really tough and resilient group of guys. So each year is different because not everybody is on the same team every year, so it's not like you bring it up and talk about it. But for the men that went through that experience, you hope you gain some lessons, and then you apply them when those moments come again.
And then in the camp of the current defending Super Bowl champion Eagles, a story came out this week that officials from the NFL were in camp going over the new use of the helmet rule that has been put into place, and there was even a disagreement amongst the officials who were there as to what constitutes an illegal hit in the 2018 season. Do you know what constitutes, and do you think you've been able to communicate to your team what is a hit for an upcoming season?
And, like at the end of it, and if you were walking down the street to say, okay, we're going to make sure the helmet's not used as a weapon, I think that's easy to say. And forever, we've all taught, keep our head up, and when we're entering into contact. So sometimes those disagreements, and I wasn't there to experience, but sometimes dialogue that takes place, maybe it force some clarity in another way to say, let's go back and revisit again with that team. Maybe some questions came up, amongst team members that they need to talk, through their locker room to get it right. And so I don't mind dialogue, and I don't mind disagreements at times, because that's kind of, I think, how you grow. Doesn't mean you have to be always, in disagreement, but it does mean that's kind of how we learn. So I wasn't there I did hear that, the officials were there and they're going to all camps, but I do encourage players, and we've gone through some for ourselves here. Let's save that play. Let's show it to the rest. Let's save that play. Let's show it to the rest. That way we can put another clip on, another video clip on to say, how is this going to be called? And as long as I think everybody knows the rules of engagement, how something's going to be officiated, and then by the same token from the coaching side, how is it going to be taught? I think when those two things, become in alignment, it makes it more clear for everyone.
So, I mean, obviously a disagreement in terms of you with your staff and the players and hashing it out, that's one thing, but a disagreement between officials, let's just say it happens on a third down and a few Thursdays in Philadelphia when you think your team's off the field and suddenly it's a fresh set of downs for the Eagles. Is there no concern by you that the officials are not on the same page here?
For sure they are, and let's hope that the exhibition season's an important one, not just for players and not just for coaches, but for referees and for officials too, to make sure that, okay, here's some new things going in. I want to see it live, and how would we call that? So I think over the next month or so, Rich, it'll be an important month for the NFL from a rule standpoint, players, coaches, referees, and get that full speed action that we all like. And we have some officials coming to our camp over the next few days, and I love when they're here because not only is it real crisp in terms of fouls or not, but also that the players have an understanding of what they're looking at and how they would call it. So those are always good days. So even though there was probably some disagreements, I'm sure there was some a lot of good that came from their trip to Philadelphia.
Yeah,
as well.
I know you're from the Mariucci family coaching tree, Coach. So I mean,
as Mooch would say, bummer. And,
he loves telling that story to all Giants fans. Bummer, yeah.
Bummer. And so I would hope that I'm not on the other end of a bummer. But no, I think that's what it's for. That when there's new rules and new things to make the game better, man, they have to iron some things out in the preseason to get connected on it. That's cool with me. And I think the catch rule is another step in the right direction.
Me too.
It's clearly defined. Okay, it's the securing of the catch, 2 feet down or a body part and a football move. When I explained that to the team, it felt good, and they had one. So I've gone back through ones that were incompletes before. What is this? And to a man, they could say catch, fumble, incomplete, catch. So we'll just try to test them and educate them. And I also wanted to know, I think there'll be more catches, Rich, And I think there could be more catches and fumbles.
I think that's so much better than no catch when everybody sitting in a bar or in your stadium or any stadium knows that it's a catch. I'm just concerned that this new helmet rule is going to be the catch rule of 2018.
I don't think so, because I think if what they're trying to get rid of is the hits that when you're in that same bar, like, man, that was an ugly hit. And if we all were saying that one, if we could get some of the ugly hits out, I think we'd all be in favor for that. So I would assume that it'd be more under that line, because what we don't want to do is make the game even harder for the referees and the officials. They're under a tough spot as it is, as fast as the game moves and the players are. So I'm hopeful that there's some hits out there that we were, like I said, if you're in that bar and watching it, that maybe if those 5 or 10 in a year could go away and make the game better, let's do that.
Well, the reason why I brought up Mariucci in closing here, Coach, is because he would know the names of the refs, their wives, their kids, so he could personalize the very crucible moment of trying to get a call in his favor during a game. Do you have that?
That's a competitor. No, I would probably have more expletives associated with than Mooch does. But you do want to know the guys, so you have a good communication system with them. And most of the time, the referees are the ones that come over and will give you the information of what it happens. And I'm in favor of those guys getting full-time opportunities where they can help work with the staff. So I think moving some referees into some full-time spots, I think that was a big step by the NFL, and I think that's one that's better for the officiating department, and in turn, which makes it better for the league.
Last one for you. I'm going to ask the question I asked to every coach who has the ability to coach in the last game of a year, and the only coach who has the ability to coach the last game of the year in his own house. Do you bring out to your team flat out, we can play for the Super Bowl in our own home this year? Do you talk about it?
No, we don't talk about it, only because it's such a cool moment wherever you're at, Rich. And so for us, knowing that there's this division, man, it is a legit division, the NFC South. So what we try to put our focus on, even through the off season, the games that we battle against New Orleans and Carolina and Tampa twice a year, going for it, that's where our focus has to be first, because if you don't go down that road first, it makes it real difficult to look too far down. So I'm surprised you even asked, honestly, knowing that we have a now clock.
I know.
Shame on you.
You can't blame a guy for trying. I mean, it's your beautiful house. I've never been there, by the way. I look forward to being there.
You do need to get here. There's lots to do, and we'd love to have you down here anytime, man. So all is good here, and we hope to see you guys soon.
No, I know you got that sort of semicircle system of screens. You could put my entire 40-yard dash on there. I look forward to that.
Maybe we could run the whole loop.
Yes, I know you run the stadium before games, so we could do that together. Coach, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. We'll chat soon.
Yeah, you got it, Rich.
You got Dan Quinn at Falcons DQ.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.